Shepherd Magiri. The Living Word of God. As it was, as it is, as it will be. Empowering you to greatness.
Shalom, my brothers and sisters. I do hope and pray that wherever you are hoping and trusting in God. Today we're going to discuss about a topic that has been a subject of debate, a subject of study, a subject of very many theses, a subject of controversy over centuries, over millennia, and people have really wanted to know whether it's true. Some have believed it, some have not believed it, some have dismissed it as mythical, some as just culture, and many believe a lot. And so today we're going to discuss about curses and generational curses in extension, because it's just the same thing. Do they exist? My name is Shepherd Magiri. Our mission is actually to teach the Word of God as it was in the beginning, as it is today in today's world, and as it will be, because the Word of God never changes. It's true and living. It is how the world was formed. It is how we are created. And to start it off, let's say this, and let's do this to clarify a number of beliefs and misconceptions and fallacies. God is true and living. The creator of heavens and earth is living and alive. And God is the author of all known and unknown science. So if God says don't, please don't, for your own sake. Essentially, it's because the world as it is was created by science. It lives by science. It's sustained by science. So it's foolhardy for us not to obey, because we obey the science that we already know. And what makes us think that we are much smarter not to obey science that we don't know? Because science is science. You name it: astrology, physics, quantum physics, chemistry, geology, astrology, neuroscience, medical science. You name it. It was created by God. So there is nothing new that humanity will create or will discover that was not in the eyes of God. He is the founder of all the science. So he knows everything from the beginning to the end. Spiritual laws are science, like any other science. And as you know with science, you can't wish it away. You can't be emotional about it. You can't ignore it. You either obey or disobey. And if you disobey, there are consequences to it. If you touch fire, you burn. If you disobey the laws of gravity, you fall, you break your bones, or you die. If you eat certain foods, you get diseases like cancer, like liver cirrhosis. If you get in touch with infected things, you get infected. Same thing with spiritual laws. Only that spiritual laws in this case, unfortunately and also fortunately for us, they're invisible. We can't tinker. They are not within our ability. God in His wisdom, so that a sinful man, if he was allowed to tinker with his spirituality, it was going to be chaotic. It was going to be catastrophic, because a sinful man is reckless. and very foolish. He behaves like an animal. He's basically like an animal. And that's why God Himself came and taught us the science behind His creation, behind how He created things, behind how He created mankind. And it's only by that obedience that we can live fully. So we know from the biblical text that God left us for us, and He said, don't change His word. Let no one ever change the words that I've given through Moses. Because He was basically giving us science. He was teaching us how we created, the nuances of the spiritual laws, and how the spiritual laws govern us. So we cannot wish away the spiritual laws, whether you like it, whether we are religious or not, whether you're a believer or not, whether you're African or European or Chinese or Indian. These are laws for everyone. God was teaching us how He has created everyone, not as some certain people, not only the children of Israel. We are, all of us, created in the same way, in the image of God, and we are spiritual beings. And so we either obey or disobey the laws of God, and we disobey with consequences thereof. And so we're going to talk about what brings about the curses, because it's out of disobedience that we have the curses. And as we already know, the things that we create, we manufacture laptops, we manufacture different types of computers, vehicles, and all that, to live within certain parameters. If they don't work within those parameters, they don't function, they malfunction. That's the same way with human beings. If you don't believe within the laws of God, then you're malfunctioning, or you're gonna die. Just like the things that we create, if they are not used within certain parameters, they either die or they just become useless, or they are just used for purposes that are not theirs, so they are being used below par, or completely being misused, or being destroyed along the way. So the same thing with spiritual laws. And spiritual laws, just like any other laws, you either obey or get a way of protecting yourself against the elements, or you get yourself a way of overcoming them. And as with spiritual laws, as we'll find out in the next few slides, how we can overcome them, how we can get protection over the elements, and how, for instance, the curses, how we can overcome the curses that we find ourselves in. Let's continue. So what's the basis for the curses? Because it's science, just like I've mentioned before. It's science. The spiritual laws are science. So the scientific basis for curses is that spiritual receptors are switched off once those curses befall the individual. So when the spiritual receptors are switched off and they are meant to be on throughout your lifetime, then you're bound to have problems, significant problems, very impactful problems in your life. That means you're operating basically below par. And we're going to find out how that happens. I don't know whether you've heard of women thread ties. If you've been reading biblical text, or if you've been pursuing knowledge in Bible, maybe you've come across Apocrypha or non-canonical books. And in one of those books, there is a book called Tobit. And in the book of Tobit, it talks about a woman who was married by over 7 men, and all of them died in the process. You married the woman and you died. And so it was not known until one last man came, that he was able to overcome that because he was helped by an angel to cleanse the woman. So they were able to overcome the curse. Otherwise, also the curse would have befallen that man, who would have died. This is true. And also in our cultures, like where I come from, there are some certain families that people would have been warned, don't marry from that family. if you get married from that family. You either die, or you'll have some challenges in terms of your health, in terms of your finances, in terms of your worldly pursuits, and all the pursuits of your life. Basically, your life will be topsy-turvy, sort of. So, and this was taken serious because it was true, and that used to happen. So there are those people that people will be warned. Unlike today, where the intermarriages and all that, and people are not able to identify this certain kind of things that moves in families and all that, like generational curses, you're not able to identify. But it doesn't mean that they're not there still. They are still there. It's only that by the fact that we've become a global village, the intermarriages from left and right, we don't even, by the time you're getting to adulthood, the tribes and the races becomes flattened out, so you can marry from anyone at any time. So you never have the background of that family. Maybe you've met someone who is extremely difficult to reason with or to relate with. That's another good example. Probably you've also encountered someone who is ever moody or disturbed. All the time they are ever moody or disturbed, not for any particular reason. It's just, they say it's just their nature. It's probably not their nature. You could have also come across someone who is not able to heed to obvious danger lurking ahead. For instance, you could, I'll give this practical example. You could tell someone that is a pit ahead, please be cautious, but they will not be able to see. It's just a symbolic way of saying that person cannot see ahead. You're able to forewarn them by taking this route in life. There are these consequences. They are not able to see that. So that's another symptom of someone under a curse. So what are the causes of curses? As we've already discussed, these are spiritual receptors that are switched off. So what causes that? One of the reasons is adultery, worship of things. You saw that with the children of Israel when they were in the desert, and you've seen this in very many cultures, and even today as it is, there are a couple of religions or cultures that still believe in worship of adultery. That automatically can bring a curse to someone, or would automatically bring a curse, will put a curse on that person. Contemptuous child, that's a child who is in contempt, who looks at their parent contemptuously, doesn't in dishonor. That's basically what it means. You remember in one of the commandments is that honor your father and mother so that you can live long. And honoring your parent really doesn't mean obeying everything. Yeah, it doesn't mean taking everything from them. I'll give a very good example. There are very many times that I've found myself not taking advice from parents, not taking everything they say as stuck in stone. Yeah, basically it depends. Probably it's more pragmatic, or maybe with time it's been overtaken by time, basically. So you'll find yourself not obeying the parents' direction. But that doesn't mean you're contemptuous of them. That doesn't mean you're not honoring them. That is just, you're just being prudent. You're being a prudent child. You're being a wise child. But dishonoring and being contemptuous is different. And this is what can bring a curse on someone. Land grab. Probably you have a neighbor and you feel that you have more money. Not only a neighbor means anyone. Basically, as in the Bible, basically anyone. You have more money, and you have more power, maybe, and you feel that you can take possession of that land, or you can chip off a little bit of that land and put it to your own good use without compensation to the other party. That will definitely bring a curse. Wicked shepherds and stewards. So in the world as we know it, we are at different levels of enlightenment, different levels of grace, different levels of intellectual development, and different exposure levels. And so sometimes people, shepherds and stewards and leaders, you name them, they take advantage of such people and misdirect them from the right path to the wrong path so that they can take advantage of them and gain power and control over them. It's human, it's in the fallen world, it happens a lot. It's wickedness because you're taking advantage of someone who doesn't have the wherewithal, doesn't have the intellectual capacity. This is someone who is dependent on you for direction, but you're just turning them in the wrong direction. This one will definitely bring a curse on you. And it happens a lot in the churches because pastors and ministers take advantage of their flock for financial gain. That brings a curse on the shepherd. So if you are to direct someone, direct that person righteously in the right direction. You can find trouble. In the Bible, you will come across very many verses that talk about God listening to the prayers of orphans and widows, that God will turn his ears to them. Basically, what it means is that you should not take advantage. You should not be unjust to the weak and vulnerable. If you do that, the curse is going to fall upon you, definitely. Shedding innocent blood. If you shed innocent blood, it's blood for blood, and apart from that, you're going to get a curse on you for the sin. Incest and bestiality, it's almost natural, we know, and as with the laws, the natural laws of God, it's inbuilt in us that we know some of these things are off even before you are told that God disapproves of this or this is against the laws of God. Inwardly, you know. So incest and bestiality will definitely bring a curse on you. The last one is disobedience, just gross disobedience. You just decide, what the heck, I mean, I don't need to obey anything, so you definitely attract a curse for gross disobedience. And just like I've mentioned earlier on, the natural laws are such that God has abandoned them in every man. So in real sense, a sinless man obeys those laws without even being told this is wrong or this is right. He knows automatically. They're in us. They're inbuilt in us. These are natural laws of creation. But a sinful man doesn't know, and that's why those laws came into place. That's why God came to teach us, because these are natural laws. You deviate from them, then there are consequences. And a sinless man was not given laws. So if you look at the Garden of Eden, we are never told that Adam was given any other law apart from don't eat from this tree, don't touch this tree. There was no other law, because in Adam, he knew what is right and what is wrong. He knew the natural laws naturally. So it was easy peasy. It was a no-brainer for him to obey the laws. He was not supposed to be told by God. It's only because we're in sinful nature that these things look like punishment. But otherwise, they're not punishment. They are natural to us. What are the consequences of the curse, of those spiritual receptors being turned off? Because as we said in science, you break the laws of science, there are consequences. So even in the spiritual laws, there are consequences, and they are dire. And unfortunately for us, And also, fortunately, is because man has no way of of, of, of getting himself out of that corner if he gets a curse. There's no way he can get out of that corner except through God himself. So what are the consequences? The consequence, you're in complete darkness. Remember, your receptor has been switched off. It's supposed to be automatically on throughout, but now it's switched off. So you're in complete darkness. No Spirit of God. The Spirit of God is supposed to be in us. At the Garden of Us, this was a natural. It was supposed to be on us. But now, if this one is switched off, that means also, even if you're born again or anything, there's no Spirit of God again. It's turned off. Remember, the Spirit of God is supposed to work in us like any other part of our system. Just like we need oxygen, just like we need blood, just like we need nutrients into our bodies, the Spirit of God is supposed to function that way. It's supposed to be in us for us to be able to fully function. We need the Spirit of God. So we need the receptors switched on so that we can work, so that we can live fully. So without them being on, we have a problem. We have a big problem. We're in complete darkness, no Spirit of God, and then we are exposed. Exposed to what? We are exposed to spirits that are not supposed to be in us or with us. Those are evil spirits. We are exposed to malevolent beings, what we call in the scriptures principalities and powers. So we are exposed to these things, to these harmful elements that are not supposed to be with us. And that brings a lot of challenges with us. Other symptoms of someone under a curse: slow learning in children. If a child has a generational curse upon them, they may experience slow learning. But let me point out at this point that it is not all the time when a child has slow learning challenges that they are actually experiencing a generational curse. It could be because of their brain functions. It could be because of neurological functions that a neurosurgeon can be able to diagnose and give a cure. But obviously, and as a matter of fact, a curse will influence the development for that child. So it might come out it may come out that way or in other ways as well. In adults, they may experience depressive tendencies. Another spiritual cause of depressive tendencies is immorality. Another cause is also blasphemy. This would cause those kind of depressive tendencies. And remember also, with depressive tendencies, there are other causes for those depressive tendencies. We are not part of this discussion because we are discussing about spiritual laws. Other causes could be medical, for instance, out of substance abuse. They could be out of probably economic challenges that people are going through, and this could bring sort of depression, or it could be because of other psychological reasons that are not part of this discussion right now. Mental challenges. A person under a curse may experience serious mental challenges. A number of diseases that the doctors have identified, but they don't know the reason behind it. And when you don't know the reason behind it, of course, you don't get a cure. It could be as a result of a curse. Another reason, of course, could be as a result of immorality. And as you know, with any science, or a disease does not catch up just there and then, or it might catch up there and then. It depends with so many factors. Just like I may drink alcohol today, it doesn't react with me as it would react with another person. Just like when someone can smoke today, they don't get lung cancer today, they get after 10 years. Someone smokes, gets after 1 year. I drink today, I get liver cirrhosis in 2-3 years. Someone else does not get the effect. Same. So someone might have serious mental challenges because of that as well. And because of immorality, you can be immoral 1 day or 2 days, you don't experience any challenges, but after a certain time, it's science, you cannot run away from it. So it will still catch up with you at some point. So doctors will end up misdiagnosing those challenges because they don't understand them. They don't understand the reason. When they look at the brain, they know the brain as much or as by the limits that they have to see. They don't know what else controls the brain. A person under curse will also have narrow perception. You may have read it in the Bible that there are those people that are said they have eyes but they cannot see, they have ears but they cannot hear. It's basically their perception of things is very different, and they are not able to perceive these as a normal person should be able to do, and that brings a lot of challenges in life, basically, because you're not able to get a proper view of things. They are slack in understanding. That means they don't understand as a normal person would understand. And just going back to the same biblical example I've given, that there are people that hear but they cannot hear, it's just the same thing. This narrow perception and narrow understanding comes, one, through a curse. Someone is under a curse, or because of immorality as well. And also blasphemy may bring that kind of narrow perception, slack understanding, and lack of a foresight. Someone cannot be able to see ahead. So they are also brought about by immorality. They are brought about by blasphemy. So curses, blasphemy, and immorality almost have the same effect on someone. Although some you can recover, others you cannot recover. Some you can be redeemed from, others you're just left to to finish off, to be destroyed. What is God's will? God's will is for us to obey His commands and laws. We're not doing God any favor by obeying His commands and laws. It's the way the world is created. It's the way we are created. A sinless man was meant to obey God automatically, without even being given the laws. Because that's the nature. That's the laws of science. That's the laws of nature. That's how we are supposed to live. But when sin came to the world, disobedience became the nature of us. So it's a deception of the devil that by obeying God, we are doing God any favor, or God wants to control us. On the contrary, as a matter of fact, God does not need worship from us. He doesn't need worship as we worship it today, but and He doesn't want to control us. As a matter of fact, He gave us the world to subdue. He created us to subdue the earth. So that means He didn't want to control us. He really still doesn't want to control us. He just wants us to obey His commands and laws so that we can live fully according to how we are created and to be able to subdue the world. That's the reason why we need to obey God. Not to do Him as a favor, not as a part of His worship. God, in His compassion and His love and mercies, after the fall of man became inclined to disobedience. And that disobedience was to have serious repercussion on man himself and the world that God has created. So He had to get a recourse for man, so at least to save man himself and to save the earth. And that recourse was to give His Son, Jesus Christ, to redeem us from our sins, as to save us. It is by this redemption that we can redeem any curse that has befallen us, either by our own lack of judgment or by our forebears' lack of judgment, that they actually sinned and there was a curse upon them, or we have seen that we have a curse upon us without unknowingly. We can go back to Jesus for redemption. Please follow us on Facebook at Magiri or at Shepherd Magiri, YouTube at Shepherd Magiri, X at Magiri. Thank you so much for your time. May God keep you. May God bless you. May His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May He turn His face towards you and give you peace. Shalom. Barikiwa.